To some extent, the Paris 2024 marks a significant milestone in China's Olympic history. Despite facing challenges, including doping allegations amplified by the United States, Team China achieved its best ever results at an overseas Olympiad. With 40 gold medals, they matched Team USA on the medal tally, and Chinese athletes made significant breakthroughs in events traditionally dominated by Western sports powerhouses. More importantly, the new generation of Chinese athletes showcased something that the nation has long awaited. As the Paris 2024 Olympics ramps up, Sideline Story host Fu Yu joins Deep Dive to explore the spirit and style young Chinese athletes have presented and discuss how the country can build on its recent successes. I'm Do Hongyu. This episode is brought to you on Monday, August 12th, 2024. Fu Yu, what are your overall impressions of the Paris Olympics this year?
Well, Hongyu, if you asked me about my observation about the Paris Games, I would use one word, and that is breakthrough. It just felt like a very different Olympic Games to me, both in terms of the achievements Chinese athletes have accomplished and the confidence they demonstrated in and out of competition. China concluded a stellar run in Paris with a record 40 gold medals, 27 silver and 24 bronze, finishing second on the medal table behind the United States. 40 gold medals is the most they've won in an Olympics outside the country because in 2008 they had the home advantage, so they had more gold medals. And this year in Paris, both China and the United States were equal on 40 gold medals. At the conclusion of the games, the US had more medals in the other two colors, so they are at the top of the table. And here we've seen athletes beat records and better themselves. Let's talk more about those impressive results later in this show. And one reason why I love the Olympic Games so much is that it inspires people. And here athletes are always pursuing a faster, higher, stronger version of themselves with that sense of togetherness. And this year in Paris, Chinese athletes displayed just that. Looking at this young generation of athletes, I'm sure most of them are at least younger than I am. And I think I love them because they are so genuine and relatable, and they're not afraid of being their true self in front of a camera. So that's one thing that impressed me. And the other thing I have to mention is that the Chinese athletes did all that. They won the medals, they smashed records and stayed true to themselves while they're in the center of this doping allegations.
Yes.
And they were the victim of Western narratives and double standards, which shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Yeah, so we will come back to the doping incident later in the show.
Okay.
Let's first talk about the performance of Team China. Which events do you think are particularly uplifting for the Chinese team and for the Chinese audiences as a whole?
To me, there are a lot, and Chinese athletes have given us a few surprises. And as I just said, they made a lot of breakthroughs, and many defeated their peers in their traditionally strong sports, where most people never expected China to be a favorite for the gold medal. Some examples here. First, I'll have to mention Zheng Qinwen won China's first Olympic gold medal in singles in tennis, beating a world number one and a former world number one on her way there. And she won that on her favorite surface on clay, which I think is what makes this gold medal so special, because at the Olympic Games, you don't get that many clay courts. And for everyone playing tennis professionally, they may not get another chance to play another Olympics on clay courts during their career. And to go on the top of the podium, Zheng withstood pressure and fatigue because both her quarterfinal and semifinal matches stretched to full 3 sets, and she held her nerves to win this historic gold medal. And mentality and consistency had been an issue for her during her previous matches, such as this year's Australian Open final and earlier also in France, the French Open. But at the Olympics, she overcame all that. She climbed the hills. And I think this could potentially be a watershed moment for both Zheng herself and tennis in China. And some of the other sports where China achieved breakthroughs include artistic swimming, men's 4 by 100-meter medley relay, and they handed the US team their first defeat in this competition at the Olympics in 40 years. And also here we have to mention Pan Zhanle, who was part of the quartet that terminated the 40-year US dominance in that relay in the pool. He also renewed his own world record in men's 100-meter freestyle. These are just some of the outstanding achievements off the top of my head, and even those who didn't finish on top of the podium or didn't win medals, their run in Paris is still uplifting. For example, we have 15-year-old Yang Siqi, who made China's Olympic debut in surfing, and the sport climbers who won both men's and women's silver medal in this new Olympic sport, and winning some team events, including becoming the first non-European country to claim Olympic gold in rhythmic gymnastics.
Well, you mentioned Pan Zhanle and the swimming team. We know that the Chinese swimmers were not only leading in the pool, but also, according to many reports, in the frequency of doping tests they've got. Can you tell us more about the doping tests Chinese swimmers faced during the Games?
Sure, it's crazy how many tests they had to take. The International Federation for Aquatic Sports acknowledges that Chinese swimmers are the most tested in the world, with each individual receiving 21 tests on average in the 6-month period leading up to the Olympics. And to put that into perspective, US swimmers received 6 tests per person on average, and that number reduces to 4 for the Australian team. And even during the Olympic Games, after they arrived in Paris, China's 31-strong swimming team were tested nearly 200 times within 10 days. And some of them had to wake up at 5 a.m. to submit urine samples.
So what have all these, as well as the Western reports, brought to the Chinese athletes?
For one thing, I think it messes with their schedules and sleep patterns. But I think the most damage that these Western reports have done is the injustice that Chinese athletes, swimmers in particular, had to face. Many swimmers from other countries doubted China's performance, and many Chinese swimmers were bullied on the internet. For example, on Pan Zhanle's social media, there are people who left comments with a needle emoji. It's just not fair and not good sportsmanship for any athlete who have worked so hard to come so far. And for those people, the haters, no matter what they do, the swimmers, no matter what they do to prove themselves clean, some people just refuse to believe the swimmers, and they don't believe that Chinese swimmers are faster than they are without doping.
Now here, please walk us through the doping scandal hyped up by the West, and how did the World Anti-Doping Agency respond?
Okay, this whole doping shenanigan played out after 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for a banned substance ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. The World Anti-Doping Agency confirmed the positive results and accepted China's findings that it was a result of contaminated food that those swimmers consumed. WADA member David Lapatin said that China had not violated any anti-doping rules, which is the clear conclusion of WADA without a doubt.
For me, it's clear that we trust the WADA. So the WADA, they have been, of course, in touch with the Chinese anti-doping agency. And we trust, we know there can be contamination that are not on a voluntary basis. We know this can happen. So we completely and we fully trust what the statement from the WADA, that there were no infringement to the no violation of the anti-doping rules. So that was clearly the conclusion of the WADA, also with independent prosecutors and so on.
Media reports from Australia, the US, and the UK, among several other countries, all began to hype up the test results and calling for sanctions. A WADA statement from April this year called the reports misleading and potentially defamatory, which they were because they lasted into Paris, and so did the ripple effects. The haters are effectively doubting the authority of WADA by refusing to believe the statement and subsequent test results.
So WADA has made its stance clear, but the hyping up process continues all the way through the games.
Yeah, it still didn't silence those people.
Okay. And what did China say about it? I mean, the athletes as well as Chinese authorities.
First, from the athletes, they of course responded with convincing results. The gold medals in swimming, for example, they were unaffected and made even more determined to prove themselves in the pool. And in terms of the authorities, China's anti-doping agency backed up its athletes by calling on the U.S. anti-doping agency to respect WADA and stop political manipulation and long-arm jurisdiction. Speaking of the U.S. anti-doping agency, ironically, U.S. sprinter Arian Knighton tested positive also for a banned substance during an out-of-competition test in March. But he was still allowed to compete in Paris, with many loose ends in the case. And these U.S. double standards are plaguing sports and hurting their own credibility. The China Anti-Doping Agency suspects that there is systematic doping in the U.S. and is now calling for increased testing for U.S. track and field athletes.
But the Chinese athletes have made it to bring it up in front of the camera. That is quite unexpected even for Chinese audiences, because normally we would expect them to be, according to Chinese cultures, to be modest and not to be that open in front of the camera, in front of a lot of people. Compared with previous Chinese athletes, what is the biggest difference among these young people?
Yeah, that is exactly the point I want to make too. Like after the men's 100-meter freestyle, Pan Zhanle let it all out after he won that competition with a new world record. He looked rather livid speaking to Chinese media after that, but he was also very self-assured. He said that today I defeated all of them, and it was such a good performance in such a slow pool. And you may not realize how big that was coming from a Chinese athlete because of some of the reasons that you mentioned. Older generations are very careful about what they say and are usually very low-key, even if they're the world champion or Olympic champion or world record holder. But the Gen Zers and millennials have changed, with Pan being a very good example. He also said after the medley relay that we're the winners. It should be the other teams that are unhappy. And a quick note here, this was after one of his teammates said he was not happy about his own performance. So these young athletes are not afraid to express their true feelings. And I guess you can say they talk the talk and walk the walk.
I guess from these young athletes, we can see the new style of the youngest generation.
Yeah, and also something else I've noticed about them is that when they step into the competition, they care about the performance, of course, but also the experience. Many young Chinese athletes were there to enjoy the moment. We've seen 11-year-old skateboarder Zheng Haohao, the youngest Chinese athlete ever at the Summer Olympics, and also hurdler Wu Yanni, who displayed good spirit even if she didn't make it into the semifinals. And apart from that, out of the competition, or you can say after the competitions, there are also small details that humanize the athletes, such as Chinese table tennis players taking a selfie with players from North and South Korea who finished with silver and bronze medals. And that was during the mixed doubles award ceremony. And Chinese shuttler He Bingjiao bringing a Spanish pin to the podium when she collected her silver medal in women's singles. And the reason why she did that was because Spain's Carolina Marin was leading He in their semifinal when Marin sustained an injury and had to retire in tears. He Bingjiao's gesture won her a lot of support from Spain, the Spanish Olympic Committee, and of course Marin herself.
Now, as we talk, it's about just half a day after the closing ceremony of the Paris Olympics. But now on the social media, people are still looking back at these touching moments, those videos and those photos. But at the same time, we're also looking forward to the next one
in Los Angeles.
Yeah, in Los Angeles. Which events are you expecting the Chinese team to make breakthroughs at the Olympics 4 years later?
For 2028, maybe not exactly breakthroughs from my end, but I expect Chinese athletes to keep up the good momentum in the sports where they have established themselves, from the seasoned athletes in traditionally dominant table tennis and diving to emerging talents in new Olympic sports. Such as sport climbing, skateboarding, surfing, which we've all touched upon. There are a lot of teenagers, such as the young surfer and skateboarder that we've mentioned. They are among the athletes that enjoy themselves. Also, at 11 years old, Zheng is the youngest athlete for China at the Summer Games. And in 4 years' time, I really hope she'll still be here and be a medal hopeful in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so a lot of new breakthroughs to look forward to, especially from the young people, the new generation. And we're also expecting them to show some new spirits for people all over the world.
Yeah, and maybe in 4 years' time in Los Angeles, there will be even more new Olympic sports.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for you.
Thank you for having me.
The Olympic flame may be out, but the Olympic spirit lives on. Now, Los Angeles has taken up the baton for 2028. Expectations are already building. Who will top the medal tally? Who will challenge China's dominance in sports like table tennis? And will athletes from around the world be able to compete free from bias and unfounded doubts? And that brings us to the end of this episode of Deep Dive. If you enjoyed what you just heard, don't forget to follow us on your podcast platforms. Just search for Deep Dive. You can also leave a comment to let us know what you want to learn about China and beyond. This episode is brought to you by me, Do Hongyu, and my colleague Zhang Zhang. Special thanks to Sideline Story host Fu Yu. We'll see you in the next one.